Support for Steppin Out is made possible by Yes Portrait. New Orleans portrait artist Pragati Dar specializes in personal portraits in oil or pencil. She uses her many years of experience to bring her portraits to life. More information is available at yesportrait.com.
Good evening. I'm Peggy Laborde, and welcome to Steppin Out, spotlighting the New Orleans area's arts and entertainment scene. And we are coming to you from our studios near City Park. Seated at our table tonight, Scott Cowen, president of Tulane University, here to discuss his brand new book, The Inevitable City, The Resurgence of New Orleans and the Future of Urban America. Welcome.
Thank you. Nice to be with you.
I was delighted. Poppy Tooker, host of the WWNO radio program, Louisiana Eats, now heard statewide.
Now heard statewide.
Congrats. Okay. Frank Maselli, and of course he's the chairman of the American Italian Cultural Center, here to talk about opera and the piazza. Welcome, Frank.
Grazie.
Good to see you. Yes, indeed. And Alan Smason, editor of the online Crescent City Jewish News, who covers the theater scene for us and can't wait until Tony night, right?
Ciao, baby.
Yeah, exactly. Definitely. But first up, Miss Poppy.
Well, it is time to celebrate, and so I'm going to propose a toast.
Oh, yes, we have libation.
It's a Planter's Punch toast from Dickie Brennan's Palace Cafe.
All right.
And what we are congratulating Dickie on is 20 years of the temperature lunch at the Palace Cafe. This is one of their specialty drinks because, you know, they have 60 different rums. That's really a rum house at the Palace Cafe. But what is the temperature lunch? In case anybody in the city doesn't know, it's a lunch, special two-course lunch, every day that is priced at the previous day's high temperature. So, for instance, yesterday the high was 91, so that means very expensive lunch today, $9.10. And the price hasn't changed in 20 years. It's been whatever the temperature is. And so lunch begins with the super salad of the day, or the Werlein salad. And we've got some entree pictures. They change every day. But some of the entrees in the past have included crawfish crepes with smoked tomato crawfish butter, grilled lamb chops over corn maque choux with crispy fried leeks, crab and mushroom au gratin with French bread crostini, and grilled jumbo shrimp on a fried green tomato with remoulade. Of course, that's their pho, their New Orleans style pho. So you can see they're not scrimping on ingredient cost at the bargain temperature lunch. Now, what you might not know is that over at Dickie's Steakhouse, they do a heat index lunch, which is basically the same thing. But it's an entree only, and $9.10, let's see. Steakhouse bacon cheeseburger, barbecued shrimp, prime beef debris poor boy, or how about an oyster McElhenney salad? I'm hungry. I'll eat any of them. Now, what's happening next I'd like to talk about is that my radio show, Louisiana Eats, is collaborating with the Palace Cafe on a special contest called Love at Tales. Now, a lot of people don't realize that many folks have met their spouses, gotten engaged, even conceived babies during the wild 5 days in New Orleans that is Tales of the Cocktail. So, as a matter of fact, that's where Brett Anderson found his wife, Natalie Jordy, at Tales of the Cocktail. So, now until July 9th, we're asking people to share their personal Love at Tales stories by sending them to love@palacecafe.com. And the winner is going to receive a romantic dinner for two at the Palace Cafe and tasting room wristbands for all 5 days of this year's Tales of the Cocktail, which is an incredible, incredible value. And I'd also like to mention there's a new place to hear Louisiana Eat. So if you want to catch up on those love tales, you can go to the local podcasting site, it's neworleans.com, and catch up on the Love It Tales and catch up on any broadcast of Louisiana Eats that you might have missed. It's also time now to eat like locavore because it's time for the Eat Local Challenge. That kicked off on June 1st, but it's not too late to join in. You've got till the 15th. You take a pledge to eat only food that is raised or grown or produced within a 200-mile radius of New Orleans. And it's really easy to do it this year because there's even 75 different restaurants that have taken the challenge and have special dishes that fit that requirement, 200 miles. So events include wild edible foraging tours in the Cottrell Forest in City Park. There's 2 urban bike tours. And on Tuesday evenings at 6 o'clock, for 2 Tuesday nights, there's Bycatch happy hours at Carmo on the 17th and at Restaurant Bourne on the 24th. And of course, Bycatch is what's sometimes called the trash fish that shrimpers often catch. And they're not trash at all. They're really delicious fish that you don't really have a chance to eat much. And last of all, it's not too late to sign up for tomorrow's symposium at the Historic New Orleans Collection. They're taking a broad look at coffee in New Orleans, and the guest speakers tomorrow include Jessica Harris, Lolis Eric Eli, John T. Edge, and me. So this one-day symposium kicks off tomorrow morning at 9 o'clock, and I hope I'll see all y'all there.
Cafe Brulot, too, right?
The day ends with Cafe Brulot at Tableau.
As it should, right?
Yeah, amen.
Thank you
Every
so much.
day.
Well, President Cowen, congratulations on your book. I think that some folks will immediately jump to the conclusion that it's a memoir of your time now, 16 years in New Orleans, but it's much more than that, isn't it?
Absolutely. It's not a memoir at all. It is, in essence, a love letter to New Orleans. And it recounts, from my eyes only, the recovery and reimagination of New Orleans since Hurricane Katrina.
Well, you also talk about some real lessons learned, so some of this could be put to good use nationally, too.
Absolutely. There's 3 or 4 themes that I think carry through the book. One is leadership during times of a crisis or adversity, urban revitalization and renewal. Third one is empowerment. If there's one thing that we learned after Katrina here in New Orleans is the power of individuals working by themselves and collectively to change our city. This story is not about how New Orleans changed because the federal government, the state government, or local government made the changes. It's because we made the changes, individually and collectively. And I believe very much in the civil society and empowerment, and this tells a wonderful story about empowerment.
Well, you talk about some true heroes, such as Irving Mayfield, but you also are pretty upfront about some folks who really aren't heroes, including a former mayor and somebody who worked for him.
Yes, I have to say I am objective and critical at times at Ray Nagin. I worked very closely with Ray during the recovery. I was on the Bring New Orleans Back Commission as a commissioner, focused on education K through 12. And I think there's some things that Ray did very well, and I think there's some things he did very, very poorly. And one of the chapters, called Chocolate City, is the chapter, I think, quite honestly, that was one of the low points, in my view, of Ray's leadership. Because that was a time where he should have been bringing the city together, and instead that was a time where the city began to come apart by race, and that was unnecessary, and I think things made a lot more difficult than they had to be at a time that was already very challenging.
And also Mr. Blakely, who...
well, Mr. Blakely, I have to say,
cranes in the sky, Blakely.
Cranes in the sky, riding the bicycle, talking about New Orleanians with no knowledge about New Orleans or New Orleanians, and someone who's not from here, but is here now all these years. I was deeply offended, quite honestly, by a lot of his comments and his prescriptions about supposedly we were going to rebuild our city.
One of the things that I have long admired is the effort that you take to make sure that your students, and part of their education at Tulane, is to be very civically involved.
Yes, we still, to this day, are the only major research university in the country that integrates civic engagement into the core curriculum. All 4 years students are with us. That has transformed the university and the student experience in ways that I never imagined back then, and accounts for why we now have the highest applications we've ever had, the highest enrollments we've ever had, the highest quality we've ever had, and the highest graduation rates. And what is really pleasing to me is the number of students who are now graduating from Tulane and staying in New Orleans.
Wow.
That was not the case
news.
before in New Orleans. They wanted to stay here, but there weren't opportunities for them. Today there are opportunities, or they're creating their own opportunities.
Now, once again, you've got 2 book signings coming up.
I do.
So that's very exciting, and we'll take a look at those. But what is next for you in the future? I know at July you'll be going bye-bye from Tulane, but not really.
No,
Aren't
not
you
really.
sticking around?
Yes, Yes, we're going to be living here in New Orleans, and I will retain an appointment at Tulane University. What I'm going to do is go back to my first love here in New Orleans, and that is K through 12 education and disconnected youth. So that was something I was involved in very heavily after Katrina. Then I had to stop it for a few years because there were other things that required my attention. Now I'll get back to still trying to improve K through 12 education here and dealing with a terrible problem of what we call disconnected youth in New Orleans.
Well, among the things that I really enjoyed about your book were the success stories citywide, but also you have an homage to the culture in one of your chapters.
Absolutely. One of the last chapters is about the culture. Because in the end, as I tell audiences all over the United States, is New Orleans is the only city that I know of that can lay claim to its own music, its own food, its own architecture, and its own language. And we retained those all through Katrina, and matter of fact have strengthened them in many ways afterwards. So I want to make sure that as we're grappling with all these other issues of crime, public education, revitalizing our neighborhoods, we haven't lost our heart, our soul, and our heritage and our traditions here. It's
very nice that the forward is by Walter Isaacson, who, New Orleans guy, but doing a lot of national things these days, who is also very involved with the recovery of the city. Absolutely. He co-chaired the statewide Recovery Association, or group that oversaw what was happening. And Walter has been a great New Orleanian, both when he's here in the city and when he's not in the city. He's probably our best cheerleader around the country. That's great. And finally, the reason for the title of the book. The Inevitable City. Everybody asks me that. There's a wonderful quote by a geographer at Penn State, Pierce Lewis, who said, "New Orleans is the inevitable city on the impossible site." And therefore, who could resist that, the inevitable city? Well, we wish you much success.
Yeah,
and thank you very much for deciding to stay here. That means a lot. Well, thank you for having me here. So we're delighted to stay. Well, thank you. Well, Frank, in New Orleans, it's one of those things where it's so easy to say, I know your mama and your daddy. And I remember your parents very well, Joe Maselli, who was very much a part of championing the legacy of the Italian-American community. I'm glad that you're moving on with that and continuing, too, with the museum. Cowen, too, and you guys, I know each other, too. But tell us, you've got a very special event in conjunction with the American-Italian Museum. Let me give you a little history. Okay. 3 years ago, I was vacationing in Rome, and one night I wandered into the Piazza Navona, which is a big, big piazza, one of the most famous ones there. And on one end they had a stage, they had musicians, they had singers, opera singers, classical singers. And it was just incredible. I said, this would go perfect in the Piazza d'Italia. I said, this would be, and this would help us fulfill our mission of celebrating and honoring the Italian and Italian-American culture, see, past, present, and future. So finally, we're now going to go through with it. Next Friday night on June 13th, from 7 to 10, we're going to have 3 hours of classical music. Opera, heavy opera, light opera, a lot of Neapolitan love songs, something like "Che bella cosa, una giornata sole," solo mio, you know that one. Anyway, and in addition, to even kind of jazz it up a little more, I contacted my friend Franco Laborde with the Ferrari Club of Louisiana, and now he's arranged to have 10 Ferraris parked in the front of the piazza, including 2 race cars. So, just for... Yeah, Frank, this is such a good deal. $10, and then you can purchase food. Right. And we should point out, in case someone has never seen the American-Italian Museum, shame on them, okay, it's right there in South Peters, and it's right next to the piazza. That is correct. And the funds raised will go towards that and maintaining it. Correct. So you have kindly made possible a performance tonight on our show, and let us know who is performing, who will be at the piazza next week. Okay, well, during the first hour, from 7 to 10 will be students from the Loyola School of Music, and so from 7 to 8, and then from 8 to 10 will be singers that we've gotten from the New Orleans Opera Association. And then tonight we have a incredible young singer from Loyola, Jade Coates, right? Jade Coates, and she's going to perform. We're ready for her to perform. She's going to perform right now the Queen of the Night Vengeance aria from the Magic Flute. And accompanied by Dr. Marcus St. Julian from Loyola, who was on our show last week. But you'll be able to hear Jade in person next week. But now let's hear from Jade Coates. All right.
din kokt i meinem Herzen. Tor har versvärmt nog, Tod har versvärmt en mun mitt här. Föt nicht durch dich, så rörst du der Schmerzen, så rörst du der Schmerzen, so bist du mein Tag der so bist du meine Tochter. So bist du nimmer
Wonderful. Thank you, Jade and Dr. St. Julian. And just a reminder, as Frank said, next Friday from 7 to 10. And for more information, AmericanItalianCulturalCenter.com. So do not miss that. And it's great to see the piazza being used again, too. And now we turn to Mr. Allen.
And I thought I detected a little bit of an Italian accent in her German. So there you go.
She is Italian.
She is.
She's Italian descent.
I have to say, the first thing we want to start off with, though, is unfortunate, the cancellation of Jesus Christ Superstar.
Yes.
We were surprised last Friday to learn of the sudden cancellation of the national tour that was starting right here in New Orleans. Andrew Lloyd Webber, Tim Rice's work that was supposed to start and begin Monday at the Lakefront Arena, the Kiefer Lakefront Arena. It was to have starred Johnny Lydon, who some people may know as Johnny Rotten from the Sex Pistols, Michelle Williams of Destiny's Child as Mary Magdalene. Jesus was supposed to be played by Ben Forster, who had toured the show with us in Australia and England, rather. And Brandon Boyd was to play Judas, but unfortunately, the producers pulled the rug out from under everyone. The lead producer, Michael Cole, apparently grew timid because of lack of ticket sales. All of these performances were supposed to take place in 15,000 to 20,000 seat arenas. And of course, the bad news not only was the local people who were affected, people like costumers, etc., but also there were 70 members getting ready to fly from London to New Orleans and go on this tour from, England, and they got the bad news as well. This was all part of the Broadway South Incentive Program. If you know, there is a program that's similar to the film credits incentive, and if you spend at least a minimum of $100,000 and more likely $250,000 minimum, then the producers can, if they document what they spent, get some of that back in the form of tax credits. Of course, with no opening, no tax credits. So unfortunately, it's really a sad situation. The producers lost even more money by not opening this Monday. We will say, however, that there were extenuating circumstances, I guess. I wish that this program had found its own legs. It probably would have been a great show to see. Meanwhile, yet another cancellation, believe it or not, another Tim Rice and Andrew Lloyd Webber work. That's the Andrew Lloyd Webber, Tim Rice first production that they did of Joseph and the Amazing Technicolor Dreamcoat. That was slated for next month at Le Petit, but unfortunately, this time they lost their licensing. The licensing was rescinded because of a lack of, I guess, preparation on the part of the people who issued the license. The national tour of Joseph and the Amazing Technicolor Dreamcoat was due to come here, and when the licensing was issued in 2013, they had no knowledge of that production. So that's basically what happened. The folks at Le Petit guarantee, however, that you will be satisfied with their replacement show that they're readying. However, as hard as I pressed them, I could not get them to commit to what that production will be. So we will find out next week. Hopefully we'll have that. I understand that Brian Batt, who is on stage in London right now doing Bat on a Hot Tin Roof, is fully involved in those particular talks, and he wanted to be consulted, and they're going to make that announcement next week. But we will have that as soon as that is made. The replacement show, of course, if you've got tickets for Joseph, you will get those tickets to be good for the new show. Now, meanwhile, director Perry Martin has extended yet another time the final week of Driving Miss Daisy with Janet Shea. Great news.
Yeah.
Lance Nichols and John Spud McConnell will be at the Bayou Playhouse for this last weekend. Suffice it to say, you don't want to miss this. It's worth the drive to Lockport. And by the way, the state of Louisiana has issued a warning to Perry Martin. If he extends any more weekends, he'll be cited for driving Miss Daisy without a license. There you go. Now, we wanted to also talk a little bit more about Le Petit. Since we talked about their cancellation, let's talk about what they're going to be offering for season subscribers this coming season. First off, Vanya and Sonia and Masha and Spike. That's the Tony Award winner from 2013 for Best Play. That's going to start off in September. That'll be followed by the prequel to Peter Pan, which is Peter and the Starcatcher, in November. That will be followed by those of you who are still smarting for the national tour not taking place, Jesus Christ Superstar, in January. They're going to take a couple of months off, obviously, for the carnival season. And then in March, Dinner with Friends. This is the Pulitzer Prize winner from 2000. It was first begun at the Humana Festival of New Plays in Louisville and played off-Broadway in 1999. I don't know that we've seen this here yet, so this will be interesting as well. And finally, merrily we roll along. This is the Stephen Sondheim performance that was done with Moss Hart and Josh Kaufman's play of the same name. It only, unfortunately, had 44 previews and 16 performances before it was shut down. So we will be looking forward to see that.
Really
yes,
strong score.
Yeah, and very autobiographical. When Stephen Sondheim wrote Opening Doors, for instance, he really based it on his own experiences on Broadway.
And it's flashback, which is interesting too.
Yes.
Yeah.
All right, let's talk a little bit about the Tonys. I can't not mention the Tonys. Real quickly,
Very quickly,
there are several plays that are up, and many of the plays that are nominated for Best Play also have nominees. First off, Bryan Cranston plays President Lyndon B. Johnson in All the Way. He's up for a Tony. Also up for a Tony is Tony Shalhoub as Moss Hart, and also in there is Santino Fontana, who plays Moss Hart at a younger age. Also Andrea Martin, who won a Tony, of course, for Pippin. Also up for Best Play is Outside Mullinger and Casa Valentina. Those are the other plays that we're going to mention. Tyne Daly is in Mothers and Sons. She's up for Best Performance in a Play. Also LaTanya Richardson Jackson in Raisin in the Sun. And Audra McDonald, Lady Day at Emerson's Bar and Grill. She's up for what will be her 6th Tony. If she wins this, she'll have won in every category that she's been nominated in, which I don't know has ever been done before.
All right, thank you so much, Alan. And now it's time for our Artist Spotlight. Tonight we are featuring 2 works of art. The first is A Continuing and Amazing Ebullition by Margaret Ross Tolbert. Based in Gainesville, Florida, Tolbert is inspired by the Florida Springs. The second painting is titled Bayou La Lutte. That's by Aaron Belka, a New Orleanian. Belka found inspiration for this piece in a photograph depicting the devastation to Plaquemines Parish during Hurricane Isaac. They are both part of the group invitational exhibit Water, Water Everywhere, opening at Lemieux Galleries on Julia Street tomorrow evening with a reception from 6 to 8 p.m. Artists were asked to interpret the theme of water and its impact on life, and the show will be on view through July 19th. Visit LemieuxGalleries.com to see more. And you can visit WYES.org to see our online calendar, and you can also see our program on demand on our website, too. New Orleans Magazine's quiz queen, Julia Street, has a question for us. Last time, Aria Mason, hello Aria, gave us the names of 2 Lakeview streets named after characters or places from World War I, and you could have said General Haig, we should say personages, General Haig, General Diaz, Marshal Foch, or Argonne. Now tonight's question. in honor of World War II. A statue at Canal and Elks Place honors female military personnel. What is the name of the statue and the famous local artist who created it? Email your answers to steppinout@wyes.org. Our prizes: a Louisiana Life magazine subscription, a gift certificate for 2 courtesy of Vianne's Tea House, offering their culinary and gourmet tea experience. And tonight we have a T-shirt as worn by WYES staffer Stephen Golombisky with the message "Nice buns" from our friends at wearablevegetables.com. And now our picks. Scott, what to look forward to? Something in the fall that's happening at Tulane?
Oh, yes, September 6th, opening of Yulman Stadium. Football back on campus at Tulane University. Tulane versus Georgia Tech.
All right, Poppy.
This weekend, it's Creole Tomato Fest at the French Market, Saturday and Sunday from 10 until 7 both days.
All right, looking forward to it. Frank. One more
Up in the
thing.
piazza.
Okay, come to the piazza. Got to do that. Absolutely. Do not miss it. And then Alan.
Well, believe it or not, Reefer Madness, that crazy movie about marijuana, spawned a musical, and it's going to be playing at the Mid-City Theater starting up this weekend. Don't miss it. It should be a lot of fun, a real hoot.
I bet it will be. And before we go to my picks, we wanted to show you these photographs by Josh Brasted of the Times-Picayune of author and jazz clarinetist Tommy Sankton, who I think in the past has taught at Tulane, as a matter of fact. And he was awarded the Medal of the Knight of the Order of Arts and Literature. And here is French Consul General Jean-Claude Brunet awarding him this honor at a reception just recently. And we have Tom with his wife, Sylvain. This honor is bestowed upon a French citizen or a foreigner, and Tommy used to be the head of the bureau for Time magazine in Paris. And it's in honor of his contributions to French culture worldwide through the arts and literature. And now my picks. The Steamboat Natchez presents Family Fun Day. That's tomorrow afternoon, featuring entertainment and games for the entire family. Boarding time is 2 p.m. and the cruise is from 2 to 4:30. Visit steamboatnatchez.com to purchase tickets. Check out the National World War II Museum this weekend. My goodness, so many wonderful events and real tribute to the 70th anniversary of D-Day. And go to WYES.org for details about WYES's beer tasting next weekend. Thank you for watching. And Frank, what are we going to hear once again from Jade?
From Jade, our beautiful soloist will now sing Velka Vonne.
All right, let's hear from them and Dr. Julianne. Good night.
Welke vonne, welke lust, her stunde mehr in meine Brust. Welke vonne, welke lust, her stunde mehr in meine Brust. Und auf Schopf will ich springen, und Schickelein in Adet bringen, und mit Locken, und mit Scherzen, ihren schwachen, feigen Herzen. Freude habe Prophezein, Freude habe Prophezein. Und auf Schopf will ich springen, und Schickelein in Adet bringen, und mit Lachen und mit Scherzen, ihrem schwachen, feigen Herzen, ihrem schwachen, schwachen, feigen Herzen. Freud und Jubel, Prophezein, 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 Freud und Jubel, Prophezein. Welke wonne, welke Lust, her stunde mehr in meine Brust. Welke wonne, welche Lust, her stunde mehr in meine Brust. In meine Brust, in meine Brust.
Support for Steppin Out is made possible by Yes Portrait. New Orleans portrait artist Peggy specializes in personal portraits in oil or pencil. She uses her many years of experience to bring her portraits to life. More information is available at yesportrait.com.